Going live. Haven't yet gone live. Yes, we have gone live. So we're live. Isn't that wonderful? Ready for the 5th quiz night of this lockdown. The lockdown may be modified, the quiz night is not. So we're on the quiz night now. I am going to fiddle around with the computer so I can give people links to this. And after that, I will come back to you. And I look forward to sharing an hour or so with you on this quiz night. We should have a good amount of fun tonight. Hello, we've got Roger and Fiona here. It's telling me that we're live. Well, I knew that. I'm just putting that direct link in for people that are on Facebook. Horrible picture of me. There's the direct link. I'm now posting that. And it decides it's going to post. Why it has to take so long, I don't know. I shall now share it on my own page. And in a moment, we will go over to Twitter, where I will share it. I've got that on Twitter, on the church's Twitter, and I shall shortly retweet it on my Twitter. Make it as easy as possible for people to find. So that's done. And we will be off before too long. So I'm now looking at you again. You can see the sun on my face. I can't be bothered to alter the Roman blinds because it will take a lot of putting back up afterwards. So you just have to accept the fact that my face is being obscured from time to time. I now have Colin and Susanna here. Welcome, Colin and Suzanne. We've got Audrey. Welcome, Audrey. And we have Ehop. Who is that? Eop from Scarborough. How wonderful. Great to see somebody from Scarborough. My mother's family had lots of friends in Scarborough. We had an Auntie Kathleen who lived in Scarborough, who wasn't a real auntie, one of the old-fashioned aunties who was a family friend. And she would send a 10-shilling, that shows how long it is, a 10-shilling postal order every Christmas. So there'd be a 10-shilling postal order from Auntie Kathleen from Scarborough. We've now got Timothy Ball. The Balls are getting ready. And we have Adam and Daniel. Good to see you, Adam and Daniel. Hope you enjoy this evening. We got Rebecca. Brilliant. I'm hoping that we'll get some scores in the 60s and 70s tonight. Let's see. We're on 16, 17 people. My leg is going to sleep. Sitting in front of a computer isn't good for me. We're now on to 18 and then 17. Somebody saw my face and went away. John Gascoigne is here. Excellent. Oh, we're on 19 now. John Gascoigne will know all the Derbyshire questions, I'm sure. And I'm waiting to see whether we've got Hallam's, because Hallam's will know the Derbyshire questions too. Have we got any Hallam's? Have we got 2 rival sets of Hallam's as we did last week? That would be interesting. It adds spice to the occasion. Gives me something to witter about while we're waiting to answer the questions. Interesting topics for this week. I look forward to trying to put together another set of interesting topics for next week. Some people have suggested that I might repeat some of the topics. We've got, here we are. Hello from Lincoln. Very good to see you. Excellent that you're here from the city of the beautiful cathedral. We've got Kathy Walton. I'm now on your big TV. God help you. I hope it's still working at the end of the evening. Perhaps you can give me some feedback, Kathy, and tell me how clear the picture is, because I've got no idea how clear the picture is that's being streamed from here. All I know is that I've got a decent connection and a decent camera, but I've got no idea what it looks like on a big screen. So perhaps you could give me some feedback. Not that I can do much about it. I've got all the settings as high as I possibly can. Now we're heading towards 7:30. We're on 20 so far. Got 21. Oh gosh. I've discovered that there are a few people skulking in the background as well. 23. A few people who've taken part. Oh, good. Well, if the quality is excellent, that's pleasing. If it's a 55-inch, can't ask more than that. I'll have to practice being a newsreader. Sometimes I think being a newsreader would be less complicated than being a vicar. But that's a moot point, isn't it? We're not here to discuss the ups and downs of being a vicar tonight. We're just here to have fun. And the ups and downs of being a vicar are not always fun. So we're on 22 and we're heading very shortly. We just clicked over to 7:30. I'll give it another minute or so. 23. Don't forget to have your bits of paper or whatever you've been using to note the questions. I have a calming tone in my voice. Maybe newsreaders oughtn't to have that. Somebody, when I was in college, when we were doing sermon classes, said that they could sit and listen to my voice all day. And then I thought, oh yes, and you'd be falling asleep. So we move on. We've got Mary Kellery. Good to see you, Mary. We've got the Packards. Oh, wonderful. We've got the Peterborough Halloms, but the Halloms in Chesterfield. I'll get that sorted out. Come on, Peterborough Halloms, get on the phone, sort their technology out. Shouldn't be a problem with the connection. Tell them to go to Facebook and follow the link. That will probably take them straight there, rather than trying some other way. We'll give it a little while, but we're already on 31. We'll be on 32 before too long, and then we will really want to be getting going. We've got 25. John Gascoigne says he'd never be asleep. Fair enough. I could do with some sleep tonight, so I hope that's. I hope tonight helps. I shall be demonstrating my my new little slurp after the first 5 rounds. I have something homemade for that, but I have a glass of water because I went for a run this afternoon and I'm still a little bit dry. We're now on 27, and I think it's fair enough for us to start. Just to recap the rules and to state them for anybody that has not been taking part so far. There are 10 rounds. Each round is themed. I will ask the question twice. I will go on. Hello, Kathy and Joe. I will go on for a little while, and then I will repeat the question. I'll go right through the round, and then at the end of the round, I will repeat all the questions again. So that gives you 4 chances to catch the questions in case you missed them. If you want any clarification, or you want to give some feedback, or you just want to chat, you can do that either by the live chat facility, or you can email. If you prefer not to use that, you can email contact@crookedspire.org. If you are watching this on Facebook using the link, please don't use the Facebook comments because I won't see them until afterwards. And that's obviously not helpful. And at the end, when it comes to the answers, any argument with the referee means you lose a point. So we'll move on then. Round 1 is astronomy, looking up at the stars. Wasn't it Oscar Wilde who said, I may be lying in the gutter, but I can still look up at the stars? Question 1, what colour is Mars? Hello, Peppits, good to see you. What colour is Mars? I don't mean a Mars bar. I think I told you the story last week or the week before of how scandalized my father was when Mars bars, which were among the confectionery he sold in his shop, went up from 3 old pence to 4 old pence. I think Mars bars have been, so we had a discussion on how much they cost now. I wonder if they're the same size now, but I want the real planet now, please. What colour is Mars? Question 2. Which constellation is named after a mythical hunter? Which constellation is named after a mythical hunter? One of the first constellations I learned to identify as a boy watching the sky at night. Used to look at the sky and we would stand there. The Barretts are taking part. Welcome, Sheila and Martin and the Victoria. We would stand there arguing about which constellation was which after the Scout night. Which constellation is named after a mythical hunter? Question 3. What is the Milky Way? What is the Milky Way? I've often tried to see the Milky Way. I've seen pictures of it, but I suspect I've always lived in places which have had too much light pollution to be able to identify the Milky Way in a particular way. So, but the question is, what is the Milky Way? Question 4. What are Saturn's rings made of? What are Saturn's rings made of? On a good clear night, you can see Saturn's rings, I'm told, through a good pair of binoculars. You don't need a particularly good telescope to do that. What are Saturn's rings made of? Question 5. Name Jupiter's largest moon. Name Jupiter's largest moon. While I've been doing these quizzes, I've remembered a lot of things which I'd forgotten, but I've also discovered a number of things which I didn't know. And one of them was that apparently Jupiter has 80 odd moons, but there are 4 historic ones, which are the biggest ones, and there are up to 50 which have been identified since. And there are about 30 that people argue about whether they're moons or not. But I want to know which is the largest. Name Jupiter's largest moon. Question 6, and listen to this question carefully. Which planet is usually closest to the Earth? Which planet is usually closest to the Earth? Now that's an interesting one, and I will just warn you to be careful on answering that question. It may not necessarily be what you think. Which planet is usually closest to the Earth? Okay, move on then to question 7. Which constellation, again going back to after Scout meetings, which constellation looks like a W in the winter sky over the UK? Which constellation looks like a W in the winter sky over the UK? This constellation and the Plough are the 2 means by which you can identify the pole star. The W of this constellation, if you bisect the angles of the W and follow to the end of the line where those lines meet, you come to roughly to the pole star. So if you're orienteering, it gives you roughly due north. Which constellation looks like a W in the winter sky over the UK? Question 8. Get on to a little bit harder question. What is a starburst galaxy? What is a starburst galaxy? Now we find out, here we are, we've got the Chesterfield Halloms who arrived, excellent. We find out who's been reading astronomy books, who, like Patrick Moore, who's been looking at the origins of the universe. What is a starburst galaxy? Question 9. What is baryogenesis? Yeah, that shut you up, didn't it? What is baryogenesis? I'll spell it for you. Baryogenesis. What is baryogenesis? And question 10. What is the principal gas in Venus's atmosphere? What is the principal gas in Venus's atmosphere? Venus is apparently quite prominent in the night sky currently, but I want to know what the principal gas in Venus's atmosphere is. I will tell you that many of the clouds in Venus's atmosphere are apparently made of sulfuric acid. So that must be fun to fly in. What is the principal gas in Venus's atmosphere? So I'll go back over the astronomy round. What colour is Mars? Which constellation is named after a mythical hunter? What is the Milky Way? What are Saturn's rings made of? Name Jupiter's largest moon. Which planet is usually closest to the Earth? Which constellation looks like a W in the winter sky over the UK? What is a starburst galaxy? What is baryogenesis? And what is the principal gas in Venus's atmosphere? Don't forget, if you've missed any of those, please get on the live chat or on the email, and I will go back and let you know what you've missed. Round 2 then, moving on to onto the earth, if you like, and we have cinema blockbusters. Question 1, where does the word blockbuster get its meaning? Where does the word blockbuster get its meaning? It's a post-war word, or at least in the cinema sense it is. Where does the word blockbuster get its meaning? Question 2, who directed Top Gun? Who directed Top Gun? And at this point, I have nothing to witter about because I've never watched Top Gun. This is not my particular area of interest. Who directed Top Gun? Question 3. How many actual Harry Potter films were there? And I don't mean the sequels and the spin-offs, I mean the actual Harry Potter films, the adaptation of the books. How many actual Harry Potter films were there? There's another Harry Potter question later on in the quiz, one which will surprise you. How many actual Harry Potter films were there? Question 4. Who starred as Ben-Hur? Who starred as Ben-Hur? Probably the first film which I recognised as a blockbuster. The first film I ever saw was apparently 101 Dalmatians, and I got frightened to death by Cruella de Vil. Who starred as Ben-Hur? Question 5. When was Jaws 2 released? When was Jaws 2 released? It's a film, the point of which many people disputed because it was thought of as being just a plain repeat in most terms of the original film, but I want to know when it was released. When was Jaws 2 released? Question 6, a real big blockbuster this, and a British one. How many Oscars did Lawrence of Arabia win? How many Oscars did Lawrence of Arabia win? Bearing in mind, it's not the nominations, but the actual wins. How many Oscars did Lawrence of Arabia win? Question 7. Which film was named by the British Film Institute in 1999 as the greatest British film of all time? Which film was named by the British Film Institute in 1999 as the greatest British film of all time? I can remember watching this. I was in between the black and white film equipment which still existed in grammar school, and the video which existed in the music room, and the music teacher, who wasn't very good at teaching music, used to watch videos on it most of the time. But every year it must have been a treat at one point, especially in the days up until the early 50s, when the school I went to had been a boarding school. The film day, the film afternoon, was apparently a big treat. We had Henry V on one occasion, and this particular film we had very catchy music. Which film was named by the British Film Institute in 1999 as the greatest British film of all time? Question 8. Very short question. Whose left foot was it? Whose left foot was it? And I want the name of the character, not the actor. Whose left foot was it? If you're having trouble with that question, I'm asking about the film My Left Foot, and I want to know whose foot it was. Question 9. Which 2019 film is the world's highest grossing ever? When I say highest grossing, I mean in terms of cash taken in cinemas. Which 2019 film is the world's highest grossing ever? It's an interesting one. Which one made the most money? Well, maybe not, because if you gross money, it doesn't necessarily correlate with the amount of money you spent on it. Which 2019 film is the world's highest grossing? And question 10. Which 1939 film is the world's highest grossing when inflation is taken into account? Which 1939 film is the world's highest grossing when inflation is taken into account? And yes, there is somebody out there who has been sad enough to categorize all the different film incomes for most of the best box office films, all those incomes from different countries, and work out the rate of inflation for those different countries. And they've come up with this, which I think is a very convincing answer. Which 1939 film is the world's highest grossing when inflation is taken into account? So that's round 2. And these are the questions again. Where does the word blockbuster get its meaning? Who directed Top Gun? How many actual Harry Potter films were there? Who starred as Ben-Hur? When was Jaws 2 released? How many Oscars did Lawrence of Arabia win? Which film was named by the British Film Institute in 1999 as the greatest British film of all time? Whose left foot was it? Which 2019 film is the world's highest grossing? And which 1939 film is the world's highest grossing when inflation is taken into account? And then we'll move on to round 3, which is birds. And these questions are quite short. Question 1, what is the largest extant bird? What is the largest bird in the world at the moment that isn't extinct? What is the largest extant bird? I'll tell you what it isn't. The bird with the largest wingspan is one of the albatrosses, and that's not what it is. I'm talking about the largest altogether. What is the largest extant bird? Question 2, what are the other plumage colours of a blue tit? Obviously, blue is one of them. What are the other plumage colours of a blue tit? I don't see many of those in the garden. I see quite a lot of different finches and tits of different sort, but not blue tits for some reason. What are the other plumage colours of a blue tit? Question 3, what colour is a starling's egg? What colour is a starling's egg? I remember collecting birds' eggs. Collect them, blow them out, and make a collection of them. I'm sure that's probably illegal now. What colour is a starling's egg? Question 4. Which 2 birds appear on Chesterfield's coat of arms? Which 2 birds appear on Chesterfield's coat of arms? Either side of the pomegranate tree. Which 2 birds appear on Chesterfield's coat of arms? We have a friend who's joined us. Hello. Question 5. Which type of owl mates for life? Which type of owl mates for life? There are a number of birds which mate for life. There are a number of birds which are largely monogamous, but some birds mate for life and are not necessarily monogamous, but stay with the same mate all the way through. And this is one of them. Which type of owl mates for life? Question 6. What bird appeared on the last design of the farthing? I have some of these in my garden too. What bird appeared on the last design of the farthing? The farthing, for anybody that knows anything about British coinage, from most of its existence had Britannia on the back of it. But the last design of the farthing had one of these birds on it. A very pretty design it was too. What bird appeared on the last design of the farthing? Question 7. Where does an osprey nest? Where does an osprey nest? By ospreys, I don't mean a Welsh rugby team. Where does an osprey nest? Question 8. What bird can you be as bald as? What bird can you be as bald as? Remember, years and years ago, a friend was trying to decide what she was going to call her baby, and we looked at some very odd names, and I came up with the name Eubald, which I thought was actually quite a nice, venerable name. And she said, "No, don't call it that. He'll end up being called Eubald Bugger in the playground." What bird can you be as bald as? Question 9. Which wild birds are all considered to be the property of the monarch? Which wild birds are all considered to be the property of the monarch? Dangerous things if you get on the wrong side of them too. Which wild birds are all considered to be the property of the monarch? And question 10. What bird can you not shoot until the 12th of August? No grumbling about this question. What bird can you not shoot until the 12th of August, the glorious 12th? It has been suggested that some members of the government party will ensure that bird shooting will be able to resume by the 12th of August because of this. Okay, we will go on to go back over those questions. What is the largest extant bird? What are the other plumage colours of a blue tit? What colour is a starling's egg? Which two birds appear on Chesterfield's coat of arms? Which type of owl mates for life? What bird appeared on the last design of the farthing? Where does an osprey nest? And what bird can you be as bald as? Which wild birds are all considered to be the property of the monarch? And what bird can you not shoot until the 12th of August? Moving on then, we have a round on choral music. And I've tried very hard not just to put in things which I know from church choral music. So we'll see where we go from here, but there will be some. Question 1. What was the choral piece written by James Macmillan for the funeral of Princess Diana? What was the choral piece written by James Macmillan for the funeral of Princess Diana? Very haunting piece. And of course, at that time, very famous, but did it stick in your mind? What was the choral piece written by James Macmillan for the funeral of Princess Diana? Question 2. Which town in the Praenestine Hills south of Rome did the great Renaissance composer Giovanni Pierluigi come from? You may get a clue from listening to the question again. Which town in the Praenestine Hills south of Rome did the great Renaissance composer Giovanni Pierluigi come from? We sing some of his music at Chesterfield, and we have at least one person here who is always very pleased when his music comes up because he's very fond of it. Which town in the Praenestine Hills south of Rome did the great Renaissance composer Giovanni Pierluigi come from? Question 3. How many parts are there in Blair in B minor for double choir? How many parts are there in Blair in B minor for double choir? That was the quite difficult service setting which the choir learned for Easter last year and also sang together with many others on the Michael Baker Memorial Evensong. Very splendid setting it is, and I'm asking how many parts are there in Blair in B minor for double choir, and I have given you a clue. Question 4. Which great composer's mass setting is like a revisiting of all the best melodies of his composing life? Which great composer's mass setting is like a revisiting of all the best melodies of his composing life? And that's quite an interesting question because he was a very, very prolific composer. So it gives an insight onto what melodies he liked from his canon of composition. Which great composer's mass setting is like a revisiting of all the best melodies of his composing life? Question 5. What is plain song often known as? What is plain song often known as? There's a very honourable tradition of singing plain song at Chesterfield Parish Church, and it has the ideal acoustic for it because it carries the melody, but it also holds the melody long enough so that it can harmonise with itself, and plain song really is very beautiful when it does that. What is plain song often known as? Question 6. What is the name of the choir which has the right to sing at papal masses? What is the name of the choir which has the right to sing at papal masses? You will have seen these on television, no doubt, at some point, or heard them, or they're actually rather good in the last 10 years or so, but if you heard them before that, you'd want to turn them off. What is the name of the choir which has the right to sing at papal masses? Question 7. Who was the musical director of the Bach Choir from 1960 to 1998? Who was the musical director of the Bach Choir from 1960 to 1998? Probably one of the most prominent choir directors of the 20th century, and only recently dead. Who was the musical director of the Bach Choir from 1960 to 1998? Question 8. Which German choir sang at evening prayer in Chesterfield Parish Church in 2019? I'm hazarding a guess that you may not remember this, but there was a wonderful German choir which sang at evening prayer last September. Which German choir sang at evening prayer in Chesterfield Parish Church in 2019? And I should add that at Christmas I got a wonderful card sent from them with everybody having signed it. Very thoughtful people. Which German choir sang at evening prayer in Chesterfield Parish Church in 2019? Question 9. Who was Samuel Sebastian Wesley's father? Who was Samuel Sebastian Wesley's father? And Mr. Wesley will not do as an answer. His grandfather was Charles Wesley, I want to know who his father was. Who was Samuel Sebastian Wesley's father? And question 10, at whose coronation was Handel's Hallelujah Chorus sung? At whose coronation was Handel's Hallelujah Chorus sung? It was the last coronation before the coronations of what's called in those circles the modern era. It was apparently quite chaotic, and the monarch being crowned kept on coming and going and being told it was all over and then having to come back for more. But it's the only coronation at which Handel's Hallelujah Chorus was sung. And if you know the dates of the Hallelujah Chorus, and you've heard what I've said in my commentary on the question, you should be able to work that one out. Okay, I'll go back over that round. What was the choral piece written by James Macmillan for the funeral of Princess Diana? Which town in the Praenestine Hills south of Rome did the great Renaissance composer Giovanni Pierluigi come from? How many parts are there in Blair in B minor for double choir? Which great composer's mass setting is like a revisiting of all the best melodies of his composing life? What is plainsong often known as? What is the name of the choir which has the right to sing at papal masses? Who was the musical director of the Bach Choir from 1960 to 1998? Which German choir sang at evening prayer in Chesterfield Parish Church in 2019? Who was Samuel Sebastian Wesley's father? And at whose coronation was Handel's Hallelujah Chorus sung? And I'll go on to the last round before the break. This is round 5, and this is on royalty. Question 1. In which year did Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, die? In which year did Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, die? At the age, if I remember correctly, of 102. In which year did Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, die? Question 2. Who is the King of the Netherlands? Who is the King of the Netherlands? He succeeded to the throne when his mother abdicated in 2013. Who is the King of the Netherlands? Question 3. Which family ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire? Which family ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire? From, of course, Venice, although they were involved in the monarchies of other countries, and for the last few centuries of the what was still by name the Holy Roman Empire, they were also providing the emperors for the Holy Roman Empire. I want to know which family ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Question 4. Who was the first modern king of a unified Italy? Who was the first modern king of a unified Italy? There are only in the unified Italy, there were only 2 different names given to kings. So if you've got any idea about those and you guessed the right one, then you need to tell me which one in succession it was, so which number it was. Who was the first modern king of a unified Italy? Question 5, coming back home. What was the name of the British royal house prior to its renaming as the House of Windsor? What was the name of the British royal house prior to its renaming as the House of Windsor? So what was its family name until they decided to be called the House of Windsor for patriotic reasons? What was the name of the British royal house prior to its renaming as the House of Windsor? Question 6. Who is currently 3rd in line to the British throne? Who is currently 3rd in line to the British throne? Quite hard to comment on this without giving you too obvious a clue, but who is currently third in line to the British throne? Question 7. Who is the King of Spain? Who is the King of Spain? Again, took over when his father abdicated in 2014. So if you thought it was Juan Carlos, you're wrong. Who is the King of Spain? Question 8. Why has Her Majesty the Queen visited Lexington, Kentucky on various occasions? Why has Her Majesty the Queen visited Lexington, Kentucky on various occasions? Why has Her Majesty the Queen visited Lexington, Kentucky on various occasions? Question 9. What is the name of Prince Charles's home in the Cotswolds? What is the name of Prince Charles's home in the Cotswolds? Those people who buy organic produce and Duchy Originals and stuff like that, and Duchy by Waitrose and all that sort of stuff will possibly have picked this up if you didn't know it by any other means. What is the name of Prince Charles's home in the Cotswolds? And finally, question 10, who is the only English king to have abdicated? Who is the only English king to have abdicated? I was going to ask who was the only English king to have been executed, but we might have ended up in lots of discussions about pre-conquest kings, and I didn't want to go there. So I didn't have that. That would have been Charles I, but this one is the only English king to have abdicated. So back over the questions. In which year did Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, die? Who is the King of the Netherlands? Which family ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire? Who was the first modern king of a unified Italy? What was the name of the British royal house prior to its renaming as the House of Windsor? Who is currently third in line to the British throne? Who is the King of Spain? Why has Her Majesty the Queen visited Lexington, Kentucky on occasions? What is the name of Prince Charles's home in the Cotswolds? And the last question, who is the only English king to have abdicated? And then we're going to have a few minutes just to relax, to make ourselves comfortable, to get a drink, whatever you want to do. We will reconvene around 8:15. If you've missed any of the questions, please get onto the live chat or onto the email and let me know so that I can let you know what the questions are and go back over them. And we'll be back at 8:15 for round 6, which is Derbyshire. Thank you. For those who are watching and wanted to know, this is a bottle of licorice liqueur, which I made on Friday. Apparently it matures and gets thicker, but it can be drunk straight away. So I thought I would give it a go. It contains nothing but licorice, those little black bits, which is not very easy to get in this country, but which I actually found in Ely when I visited a little while ago in a traditional sweet shop in Ely in Cambridgeshire. And it's got those little licorice bits, sugar, water, and pure alcohol. And it is a beautiful colour, and it has a gorgeous smell. I'm sure it's very good for making you sleep. Well, I know because I've had it, my friends make it, and I know it's very good for helping you sleep, and it's very good for keeping you regular as well. I'm sure you didn't want to know that. I'm going to put this in the cupboard because I'm afraid the sun will shine on it and it will explode. Hello, we've got Jack with us. Good to see you, Jack. I'm now going to try the liqueur. And it is wonderful. It is delicious. Oh yes, it is very lovely. Oh yes, very, very good. If I collapse at this point, you'll have to blame my friend Angela in Italy for giving me the recipe. And of course, giving me, this is called liquirizia in Italian, giving me liquirizia when I visited. This is really, really nice. So if anybody would like to let us know how they think they're getting on, we're getting towards 8:15. If you'd like to fess up how you're getting on, that would be interesting. Give it another half a minute before 8:15 comes. The dog has gone back to sleep. Millie is very tired. As Millie settles down, I'm discovering that Millie is the first since Joe actually to have proper sheepdog behavioral characteristics. And she spends most of the time in the garden stalking Louis in the proper sheepdog manner. Oh dear. Well, maybe Derbyshire or fast food will do a bit better. We'll see how it's going. Some interesting stuff in there anyway. And some of the things which you may not have got, you'll kick yourself when you find the answer to. It is now 8:15, so we will get cracking. The Peterborough Hallam's are 1 point ahead of Gwen, but you were 1 point ahead of Gwen and Tony last week. How do you manage to do that? We have very nice homemade cookies as a half-time treat. Well, if you want to send some down the phone to me, that would be great. I had some homemade shortbread, but it ran out yesterday. I spent Friday afternoon or summer Friday afternoon making this, which took all afternoon because the licorice takes ages to dissolve. And I made some shortbread, and there's a delightful Absolutely delightful smell in the house. Okay, move on then. We have a few gaps. Oh dear. All right, round 6. Derbyshire. Question 1. What is the county town of Derbyshire? What is the county town or the county seat of Derbyshire? Ah, we've got Rowena. Good to see you, Rowena. Shortbread, your husband's favourite. It's one of my favourites as well. My mother made wonderful shortbread. I was trying to decide whether to make it with plain or self-raising flour, and all the various recipes suggest different things. But since I could only get self-raising flour last week, I tried with that. What is the county town of Derbyshire? Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Shortbread is always a distracting thing. The county seat of Derbyshire. Question 2. What is Derbyshire's county flour? Hello, Helen. What is Derbyshire's county flour? Apparently, it's only in this century that Derbyshire has had a county flour. I'm impressed you can get flour. Oh dear. John is doing very badly. He didn't get anything in choral music. Well, am I surprised, John? Honestly. There seems to be flour in most places in the mornings. And Sainsbury's was, for some reason, empty most of last Wednesday. So I managed to get some of the last flour they had. And there was flour in Marks and Spencer's this morning in town. So I managed to get some plain flour, which will go towards Yorkshire pudding. So there will be toad in the hole at some point in the not too distant future. What is Derbyshire's county flour? Now let's keep focused. Question 3. Who is the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire? Who is the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire? Well, Mary says you're impressed I can make shortbread. Shortbread is so easy. I do use the traditional way, which my mother used, of rubbing the butter into the flour. Delia Smith suggests not handling it, but I love rubbing fat into flour, so I do that. Who is the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire? Question 4. At what ground is Derbyshire County Cricket Club based? At what ground is Derbyshire County Cricket Club based? Now, surely you can get that. Surely. At what ground is Derbyshire County Cricket Club based? Question 5. Where in Derbyshire does the world's oldest football club play? Where in Derbyshire does the world's oldest football club play? If you don't know the answer to this, you may be quite surprised. Where in Derbyshire does the world's oldest football club play? Question 6. Of the 9 parliamentary constituencies in Derbyshire, how many are presently held by the Labour Party? Of the 9 parliamentary constituencies in Derbyshire, how many are presently held by the Labour Party? For better or for worse, not as many as were held before the election last year. Of the 9 parliamentary constituencies in Derbyshire, how many are presently held by the Labour Party? Question 7, and here's the Harry Potter related one. What is the name of Derbyshire's only Muggle Quidditch team? And yes, I haven't made this up. What is the name of Derbyshire's only Muggle Quidditch team? Well, I must have a strange mind to be finding things out like this. What is the name of Derbyshire's only Muggle Quidditch team? Question 8. Which actual Derbyshire stately home features in the novel Pride and Prejudice? Be careful with the question. Pride and Prejudice is based in Derbyshire, but it's based in a fictional stately home, but there is an actual stately home which features in it, and that's what I want as an answer. Question 9. In which Derbyshire town was the principal filming for the League of Gentlemen done? In which Derbyshire town was the principal filming done for the League of Gentlemen? I was told when the League of Gentlemen started that I would find it funny, but I never did. In which Derbyshire town was the principal filming done for the League of Gentlemen? And question 10. Which place in Derbyshire has been located by the Ordnance Survey as the furthest from the sea in Great Britain? Apparently in 2003, the Ordnance Survey identified this place. Which place in Derbyshire has been located by the Ordnance Survey as the furthest from the sea in Great Britain? A turbulent priest from the Church of England died last week, and he was pensioned off because he was far too difficult. So they pensioned him off at a very early age, and he went to live in Oxford in a place which was a long way away from the sea, and being this person he was, he named his house Sea View. You won't get a sea view in Derbyshire. Which place in Derbyshire has been located by the Ordnance Survey as the furthest from the sea in Great Britain? So to recap, what is the county town of Derbyshire? What is Derbyshire's county flower? Who is the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire? At what ground is Derbyshire County Cricket Club based? Where in Derbyshire does the world's oldest football club play? Of the 9 parliamentary constituencies in Derbyshire, how many are presently held by the Labour Party? What is the name of Derbyshire's only Muggle Quidditch team? Which actual Derbyshire stately home features in the novel Pride and Prejudice? In which Derbyshire town was the principal filming for the League of Gentlemen done? And which place in Derbyshire has been located by the Ordnance Survey as the furthest from the sea in Great Britain? Move on then to round 7, which is fast food. Question 1. Where was the first McDonald's in the UK? Where was the first McDonald's in the UK? The arrival of this may have been a matter of regret for you. I can only say that when I moved from my hometown in South Wales to go and study in Rome, I had never heard of McDonald's until a student told me about it a couple of years later, a student from London who had come across it. But by the time I finished my studies, there was a McDonald's drive-through not too far away from my local town. Where was the first McDonald's in the UK? Question 2, and bear in mind this is the question isn't the topic is not British fast food. What is an idli? IDLI. What is an idli? And I'll give you a clue. It is a southern Indian type of fast food. What is an idli? Question 3, and this is the one that you've been trying to work out for years. What percentage of pork is there in a Greggs sausage roll? And the answer I have is from the ingredients panel on the side of the Greggs sausage rolls which you buy in Iceland, because I couldn't find an ingredients list anywhere else. What percentage of pork is there in a Greggs sausage roll? Question 4. What did Harry Ramsden, the Harry Ramsden, use for frying? What did Harry Ramsden use for frying? If you like things fried in this particular substance, there is a chip shop on the Newbold Road opposite the Chesterfield Arms which fries in this substance, and I can bear witness that their chips are delicious and not greasy in the slightest. What did Harry Ramsden use for frying? Question 5. Where in Chesterfield can you buy a foot-long hot dog? Where in Chesterfield can you buy a foot-long hot dog? Not at the moment, sadly, but normally. Where in Chesterfield can you buy a foot-long hot dog? And question 6. I'll be interested if anybody can get this one. What are suppli al telefono? What are suppli al telefono? It's not a clue, but just to confirm that telefono means telephone. And while we had South Indian fast food, that is obviously Italian fast food. What are suppli al telefono? Question 7. What is the most common roadside fast food in Israel? What is the most common roadside fast food in Israel? And I mentioned last week the very hot Yemeni relish, zoug, which is green, and you have zoug on these things, or you can if you want, and they are absolutely delicious. You have these in a hollowed out pita bread. What is the most common roadside fast food in Israel? Question 8. Where is the winner of the 2020 Fish and Chip Shop of the Year? Where is the winner of the 2020 Fish and Chip Shop of the Year? You wouldn't have to travel a very long way to find it. Where is the winner of the 2020 Fish and Chip Shop of the Year? Question 9. How much does scampi and chips cost at the Alfreton Little Chef? How much does scampi and chips cost at the Alfreton Little Chef? I know you thought little chefs had bitten the dust before now, but apparently there are still some, and there is one in Alfreton. And I've checked the menu, and I know how much. Actually, this is a fairly standard cost for main course items at the Alfreton Little Chef. Some cost a little less, and some cost a little more. I want to know how much scampi and chips costs at the Alfreton Little Chef. And question 10. In which year was the Chesterfield Street Food and Grooves Festival launched? In which year was the Chesterfield Street Food and Grooves Festival launched? Sadly, it's not happening this year. It's been postponed till next year because of the uncertainty. In which year was the Chesterfield Street Food and Grooves Festival launched? I'll go back over those. Where was the first McDonald's in the UK? What is an idli? What percentage of pork is there in a Greggs sausage roll? What did Harry Ramsden use for frying? Where in Chesterfield can you buy a foot-long hot dog? What are suppli al telefono? What is the most common roadside fast food in Israel? Where is the winner of the 2020 Fish and Chip Shop of the Year? How much does scampi and chips cost at the Alfreton Little Chef? And in which year was the Chesterfield Street Food and Grooves Festival launched? So we'll move on to round 8, which is monasticism. And I'm not going to spend 10 minutes of silence I'm going to get on with the questions. Question 1, where is the nearest living Cistercian abbey to Chesterfield? Where is the nearest living Cistercian abbey to Chesterfield? And yes, there are living Cistercian abbeys. They're not all ruins. And I want to know, where is the nearest living Cistercian abbey to Chesterfield? Question 2. Who is known as the father of Western monasticism? Who is known as the father of Western monasticism? I guess this is fairly obvious. If you rack your brains, if you don't know a great deal about monasteries and monasticism, you should be able to guess this one. Who is known as the father of Western monasticism? Question 3. Traditionally, how many times is the Lord's Prayer recited in the course of a monastic day? Traditionally, how many times is the Lord's Prayer recited in the course of a monastic day? Traditionally, how many times is the Lord's Prayer recited in the course of a monastic day? Question 4. While various monastic orders all have their versions of poverty, chastity, and obedience, although sometimes they use different terms and different definitions, what is the distinctive vow made by a Benedictine? So we have all those versions, but I want to know, what is the distinctive vow made by a Benedictine? And in some abbeys honoured more in the breach than in the observance. While various monastic orders all have their versions of poverty, chastity, and obedience, what is the distinctive vow made by a Benedictine? Question 5. Which new monastic community is established in Chesterfield? Which new monastic community is established in Chesterfield? And by that I mean one of these new style communities, not one recently established, although it is fairly recently established, but I want to know which new monastic community is established in Chesterfield. Question 6. Franciscans and Dominicans, among others, are known as friars rather than monks. Why is this? Franciscans and Dominicans, among others, are known as friars rather than monks. Why is this? Something you always wanted to know if you didn't already know it. Franciscans and Dominicans, among others, are known as friars rather than monks. Why is this? Question 7. What do those in monastic vows do in the course of a chapter of faults? What do those in monastic vows do in the course of a chapter of faults? The chapter in a monastery is a meeting of the whole community, and occasionally there is a chapter called the chapter of faults. What do those in monastic vows do in the course of a chapter of faults? Question 8. Ora et labora is the motto associated with the Benedictine way of life. What does it mean? Ora et labora is the motto associated with the Benedictine way of life. What does it mean? And it describes very aptly what Benedictines do. Ora et labora is the motto associated with the Benedictine way of life. What does it mean? Question 9. What type of music tends to be associated with the singing of Mass and the offices in most monasteries? What type of music tends to be associated with the singing of Mass and the offices in most monasteries? I think you ought to be able to guess this if you don't know it. What type of music tends to be associated with the singing of Mass and the offices in most monasteries? And question 10, which order did St. Clare found? Which order did St. Clare found? St. Clare being St. Clare of Assisi, and some of her followers being known as Poor Clares. Which order did St. Clare found? I'll go back over that. Where is the nearest living Cistercian abbey to Chesterfield? Who is known as the father of Western monasticism? Traditionally, how many times is the Lord's Prayer recited in the course of a monastic day? While various monastic orders all have their versions of poverty, chastity, and obedience, what is the distinctive vow made by a Benedictine? Which new monastic community is established in Chesterfield? Franciscans and Dominicans, among others, are known as friars rather than monks. Why is this? What do those in monastic vows do in the course of a chapter of faults? Ora et labora is the motto associated with the Benedictine way of life. What does it mean? What type of music tends to be associated with the singing of Mass and the offices in most monasteries? And which order did St. Clare found? So if you found that a little bit out with your experience, then round 9 is definitely for you. It's about hair. Although there are some here who might, some taking part whom, for whom hair is a memory, but there we are. Question 1. For how long does your hair continue to grow after death? For how long does your hair continue to grow after death? Maybe that's not a question you particularly want to dwell on. For how long does your hair continue to grow after death? Question 2. Deficiency in which pigment results in grey hair? And I must be quite considerably deficient in this pigment by now. Which pigment deficiency results in grey hair? Question 3. Why do many babies start off with fair or white hair and go dark later on? Why do many babies start off with fair or white hair and go darker later on? I apparently had white hair, fair white hair, when I was young, but it didn't last. Why do many babies start off with fair or white hair? Question 4. Here's one for the would-be barbers or hairdressers among you. What is the best remedy for split ends? What is the best remedy for split ends? And any hairdresser will tell you there's only one remedy for split ends. What is the best remedy for split ends? Question 5. When was the ducktail popular? When was the ducktail popular? Given the people I'm talking to and the thing I have around my neck, I won't tell you what else it was called. When was the ducktail popular? Question 6. What name did Barbara Castle give to her wig? Yes, that's what I said. She gave her wig a name. What name did Barbara Castle give to her wig? What name did Barbara Castle give to her wig? Question 7. Ladies, you should know this. What is the difference between depilation and epilation? What is the difference between depilation and epilation? Apart from a considerable amount of pain. What is the difference between depilation and epilation? And epilation is not the name of a range of mountains in North America. That's the Appalachians. Question 8. What chemicals are used in a perm? What chemicals are used in a perm? Perms have become very fashionable in young men recently. What chemicals are used in a perm? Question 9. What is a tonsure? What is a tonsure? If you want a clue for that, it could have been asked under round 8 monasticism. What is a tonsure? And question 10. Why is there greater hair growth in the nose and the ears with advancing age? Why is there greater hair growth in the nose and the ears with advancing age? Why is there greater hair growth in the nose and the ears with advancing age? Okay, I'll go back over those and then we'll go into the last round. For how long does your hair continue to grow after death? Which pigment deficiency results in grey hair? Why do many babies start off with fair white hair and get it going darker later on? What is the best remedy for split ends? When was the ducktail popular? What name did Barbara Castle give to her wig? What is the difference between depilation and epilation? What chemicals are used in a perm? What is a tonsure? And why is there greater hair growth in the nose and the ears with advancing age? And the answer, Colin, is not gravity. Okay, round 10. We're there already. Question 1. How much is a standard second-class stamp? How much is a standard second-class stamp? How much is a standard second-class stamp? Question 2. What is the anytime standard class rail fare from Chesterfield, single rail fare, sorry, from Chesterfield to St Pancras? What is the anytime standard class single rail fare from Chesterfield to St Pancras? It's a ticket you can use anytime. Question 3. When is the Queen's official birthday this year? When is the Queen's official birthday this year? The day on which the Trooping of the Colour takes place. No idea whether that will happen or not this year. When is the Queen's official birthday this year? Question 4. What is a 20th wedding anniversary called? What is a 20th wedding anniversary called? Traditionally and in the UK. What is a 20th wedding anniversary called? Question 5. In which country was Meccano invented? In which country was Meccano invented? I asked about Lego last week and I'm asking about Meccano this week. In which country was Meccano invented? Question 6. What does COVID stand for? What does COVID stand for? Various viruses have various names. The one we have is COVID-19. What does COVID stand for? Question 7. Was there a queue to get into Chesterfield Marks and Spencer's at 11:10 a.m. today? Last week I asked about Sainsbury's. I can give you a clue. In fact, you can get this question right or wrong because it's yes or no. Was there a queue to get into Chesterfield Marks and Spencer's at 11:10 a.m. today? Question 8. I asked about a Labour one last week, and we have a Conservative one. Which veteran Conservative politician was born and brought up in West Bridgford, Nottingham? Which veteran Conservative politician was born and brought up in West Bridgford, Nottingham? Question 9. Which banking group does First Direct belong to? Which banking group does First Direct belong to? And question 10. How many lines did the first broadcast TV signals in the UK have? How many lines did the first broadcast TV signals in the UK have? So I'll go back over those. How much is a standard second class stamp? What is the anytime standard class rail fare from Chesterfield to St Pancras? When is the Queen's official birthday this year? What is the 20th wedding anniversary called? In which country was Meccano invented? What does COVID stand for? Was there a queue to get into Chesterfield Marks and Spencer's at 11:10 a.m. today? Which veteran Conservative politician was born and brought up in West Bridgford, Nottingham? Which banking group does First Direct belong to? And how many lines did the first broadcast TV signals in the UK have? As before, if you want any question repeated, please ask either through the live chat or through the email. I will correct the answer on here to question 8 because I left Dennis Skinner on there, and Dennis Skinner is very definitely not a veteran Conservative politician. And we'll have a very short break before we go on to the answers. I'll get up and walk around a bit, and then we'll come back. Hello. Oh, it's still very quiet. There's a lot of thinking going on. Well, I did consult last week on having a jazz round, and there were some fairly violent reactions to that. I decided not to spoil the evening of various people, but I'm beginning to run out of topics, so for next week there may be jazz, who knows. Okay, we'll come on shortly. We've dropped in number for some reason. Perhaps people are afraid of getting the answers. Who knows? And as I did last week, to avoid any oversight in giving the answers, I'm going to tick these off. So I'm ready to go. Are you ready to go? Let me know if you're ready to go. Are you still there? Okay. Peterborough United Football Club. We've had science, we've had sport, and we've had geography. So we're ready to go. Let's go then. Question in the astronomy round, question 1, what colour is Mars? Mars is, of course, red. The constellation named after a mythical hunter is Orion. The Milky Way is the galaxy in which we are situated. Saturn's rings are made of water ice, frozen water. Jupiter's largest moon is Ganymede. The planet which is usually closest to the Earth is Mercury. A lot of people have thought that Venus was, because it's the next one on towards the Sun, but Mercury is quite often closer to the Earth than Venus, and more often than not. So Mercury is usually closest to the Earth. It has to do with where the orbit of the Sun is, and of course, if the Earth is this side of the Sun and Venus is that side of the Sun, it's further away. Makes sense if you think about it. The constellation that looks like a W in the winter sky is Cassiopeia. A starburst galaxy is a galaxy where there is faster than usual formation of stars. Baryogenesis is the imbalance between matter and antimatter as far as we know in the universe. In theory, matter and antimatter ought to exist in equal quantities, but there is apparently the amount of antimatter which we know of is 10% in quantity of the amount of matter we know of, which is odd. So that's baryogenesis is the word that's used to describe that oddness. The principal gas in Venus's atmosphere is carbon dioxide. So all those sulfuric acid clouds are in an atmosphere of carbon dioxide. Cinema blockbusters. The word blockbuster got its meaning in the Second World War from a bomb which was powerful enough to destroy a whole city block. Nasty but true. The director of Top Gun was Tony Scott. There were 8 actual Harry Potter films because the 7th novel was done in 2 films. Charlton Heston starred as Ben-Hur. Jaws 2 was released in 1978. Lawrence of Arabia won 7 Oscars. The film named by the BFI in 1999 as the greatest British film of all time was The Third Man. Whose left foot was it? Christy Brown was the name of the autistic chap with the left foot. The 2019 film, which is the world's highest grossing so far in absolute terms, is Avengers Endgame. But if you take inflation into account, the 1939 film, which is the world's highest grossing, is Gone with the Wind. Round 3 is birds. The largest extant bird is the ostrich. The other 2 colours in the plumage of a blue tit are yellow and white. You can have a point for each of those. What colour is a starling's egg? It is blue. Which 2 birds appear on Chesterfield's coat of arms? A magpie and a cock. If you prefer to call the magpie a pynot, P-Y-N-O-T, that's fine by me. The type of owl which mates for life is a barn owl. The bird on the last design of the farthing is a wren. An osprey nests high up, usually in a tree. What bird can you be as bald as? A coot. Which wild birds are all considered to be the property of the monarch? Swans, of course. And which bird can you not shoot until the 12th of August? It is grouse. So that's round 3. We'll move on to round 4, which is choral music. Question 1. What the choral piece written by James Macmillan for the funeral of Princess Diana was Song for Athene. The town in the Praenestine Hills, which Giovanni Pierluigi came from, was of course Palestrina. Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. There are 8 parts in Blair in B minor for double choir, 2 choirs, standard choirs of 4 parts. The great composer whose mass setting revisits all his best melodies is, of course, Bach, the B minor mass. Plainsong is often known as Gregorian chant. The choir which has the right to sing at papal masses is the Sistine Choir. The musical director of the Bach Choir from 1960 to 1998 was Sir David Wilcox. The German choir, which sang at evening prayer last year in Chesterfield Parish Church, was called Fiat Ars. Samuel Sebastian Wesley's father was called simply Samuel Wesley. And at whose the coronation, and the only coronation where the Hallelujah chorus has been sung, was the coronation of Queen Victoria. Round 5. The Queen Mother died in 2002. The King of the Netherlands is called Willem Alexander. The Habsburgs ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The first modern king of the unified Italy was Victor Emmanuel II. The name of the British royal house prior to being called House of Windsor was the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. The third in line to the British throne is Prince George of Cambridge. The King of Spain is Felipe VI. Her Majesty the Queen has visited Lexington, Kentucky on occasions because it is a world centre for horse racing and breeding, which is one of her favourite pursuits. The name of Prince Charles's home in the Cotswolds is Highgrove, and the only English king to have abdicated is Edward VIII. So I'm sure you got some of those. We move on to round 6. The county seat of Derbyshire is Matlock. Derbyshire's county flower is called Jacob's Ladder. The Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire is William Tucker. Derbyshire County Cricket Club is based at the county ground. The world's oldest football club, believe it or not, is Sheffield Football Club. Not Sheffield Wednesday or Sheffield United, Sheffield Football Club. And they play in Dronfield. They've had quite a lot of interesting recognition. If you look them up, it's quite a fascinating history. So in Derbyshire, the place where the world's oldest football club plays is Dronfield. There are currently 2 Labour constituencies in Derbyshire out of 9. Derbyshire's only Muggle Quidditch team is called the Derby Union Quidditch Club. The Derby Union Quidditch Club. The stately home in Pride and Prejudice is obviously Chatsworth. The principal filming for the League of Gentlemen was done in Hadfield. And the place in Derbyshire which has been located by the Ordnance Surveys the furthest from the sea in Great Britain is Church Flats Farm at Coton in the Elms near Swadlincote. And I'll happily take any of those 3. But the accurate answer is Church Flats Farm at Coton in the Elms near Swadlincote. Fast food. And if the Packards are still here, I was tempted to ask, as part of this, what sort of pies are sold at Hillsborough, but I've had difficulty finding out. So perhaps you'd like to tell me what make of pies tend to be sold at Hillsborough. They were once pucker pies, but I think the owner of Pucker Pies has fallen out with Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know. Anyway, we'll move on to the actual answers. The first McDonald's in the UK was in Woolwich in 1974. And idli is a fermented rice cake, and it is part of the street food of South India. There is 20% of pork in a Greggs sausage roll. Harry Ramsden used beef dripping for frying. Apparently his restaurants, or the restaurants with his name, don't any longer. In Chesterfield, you can buy a foot-long hot dog right in the middle of the market, right in the middle of Market Square. Suppli al telefono are fried rice cakes with mozzarella centers. They are rice cakes fried, made into a ball and fried in breadcrumbs, and they have mozzarella in the center. So when you pull them apart, you get all the strings of mozzarella, which looks like a telephone line. That's why they're called suppli al telefono. The most common roadside fast food in Israel is falafel. The winner of the 2020 Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, possibly worth a visit once all this is over, is in Nottingham. It's the, I'll have to say this very carefully, the Cod's Scallops in Wallerton in Nottingham. It's the Cod's Scallops in Wallerton in Nottingham. Question 9 was, how much does scampi and chips cost at the Alfreton Little Chef? £7.99. And the Chesterfield Street Food and Grooves Festival was only launched in 2018. Very recent. Okay, move on to monasticism. The nearest living Cistercian abbey to Chesterfield is Mount St. Bernard's, which is in Charnwood Forest, not far from Loughborough. The father of Western monasticism is St. Benedict. The Lord's Prayer is recited 7 times in the course of a monastic day. The distinctive vow made by Benedictines is stability. In other words, they vow to stay in their community, in that place. The new monastic community in Chesterfield is the Order of the Black Sheep. Franciscans and Dominicans and others are known as friars rather than monks because they belong to mendicant orders. And mendicant orders are those which beg for their income. Traditional monastic orders, whose members are called monks, work in order to generate their income, but traditionally Franciscans and Dominicans are meant to beg for their income, and Franciscans serve the poor with what they get, and Dominicans preach with what they get. So they are mendicant orders, and mendicant orders, their professed members are known as friars rather than monks. In a monastery, in the course of a chapter of faults, those in vows confess their faults or their sins to each other. Not a pleasant business. Ora et labora means pray and work. Important to get that conjunction correct in the middle. Ora et labora. Some people say ora est labora, which means prayer is work, which is wrong. The Benedictines believe in praying and working, not one is the other. The type of music often used in Mass and the offices is plain song, and St. Clare founded the minoritesses, or the Franciscans. I'll accept Franciscans, and I gave you a bit of a clue there when I pointed out that she was from Assisi. Moving on to hair. For how long does your hair continue to grow after death? It doesn't. More of it appears because the skin retracts. So that apparently is what happens. There are all these stories about fingernails getting longer, and what happens is your finger retracts away from the nail. I hope you're not eating, but that's what actually happens. So your hair doesn't continue to grow after death. It doesn't. The pigment deficiency which results in grey hair is a deficiency of melanin. Why do many babies start off with fair or white hair and get darker later on? As puberty approaches, the body produces more melanin. That's a fact. The best remedy for split ends is to cut them off. The ducktail, or the duck's, was popular in the 1950s. Barbara Castle's name for her wig was Lucy. The difference between depilation and epilation is the difference between shaving and waxing. Depilation is the removal of visible hair. Epilation is the removal of all hair, including the roots and follicles, which is why waxing is used for that and is very painful. The chemicals used in a perm are either ammonium thioglycolate or glycerol monothioglycolate. The ammonium thioglycolate is alkaline and is used for stronger hair at room temperature, and the glycerol monothioglycolate is acid and it's used for finer hair and requires heat. Don't say you never learn anything. A tonsure is the shaving of part of the scalp. A traditional tonsure takes a large part of the hair off to show that you are dedicated to God. A modern tonsure is a very small thing. Why is there greater hair growth in the nose and the ears with advancing age? Well, the body contains a substance called testosterone. Not just male bodies, female bodies contain it as well. And there are similar chemicals which have a similar function called androgens, which are predominant in males but also present in females. Now, apparently, as you grow older, whether you're male or female, you have more testosterone and similar chemicals. And particularly if you're female, once the menopause takes place, the female estrogen and other things diminish and the testosterone becomes more plentiful. And what happens with testosterone is that it stops the dormant period in the cycle of hair growth. The cycle of hair growth goes from it's a three-way cycle. The anagen is when the hair grows. The catagen is where the hair stays put. And the telogen is where the hair has fallen out and the follicle is at rest. It's a sort of fallow period. And when there is greater testosterone, the telogen gets shorter and shorter. So basically what happens is that there is no rest period and there is more hair actually growing. You didn't know that, did you? So that's why there's greater hair growth in the nose and the ears. There's not actually more hair, but there's more hair growing more of the time. Well, if you knew that answer, you can still have 1 point. Yes. Trivia. How much is a standard second-class stamp? 61 pence. What is the anytime standard class rail fare from Chesterfield to St Pancras? £103.50. I've been asked for number 4. Number 4 of what? Of the last round. The best remedy for split ends is to cut them off. Okay, we'll go back. How much is a standard second class stamp? 61 pence. The anytime standard class single rail fare from Chesterfield to St Pancras is £103.50. So it's not that much less than the first class. The Queen's official birthday this year is on the 13th of June. It's the second Saturday in June. The 20th wedding anniversary is traditionally in the UK called the China anniversary. Meccano was invented in the UK, in Liverpool. at the end of the 19th century by Joseph Hornby, whose name lives on. COVID stands very simply for coronavirus disease. Corona, co, virus, VI, and D for disease. Was there a queue to get into Chesterfield Marks and Spencer's at 11:10 a.m. today? No. I was very lucky because when I came back out, there was quite a big queue. Which veteran Conservative politician was born and brought up in West Bridgford, Nottingham? It is, of course, Kenneth Clarke, who went on to represent his place of birth in Parliament. The First Direct belongs to the HSBC banking group, and the first broadcast TV signals in the UK had 405 lines. 405 lines. So that's the answers to that. I am now docking a point from Dan Hallam for questioning the answer. And I shall check whether he's right. According to the post office shop, a second-class stamp for a standard letter weighing up to and including 100 grams cost 61 pence. In the Royal Mail shop, it tells me that prices start at 65 pence. How interesting. Well, you're correct, but you still lose the point for arguing with the referee. Okay. Anybody want to share their scores? Anybody want to give some feedback? I have some suggestions for rounds for next time, but they're rounds which we've already had, and I've been trying to have different rounds. So that 47 is quite good in historical context. We got 47 from the Peppits. We've got 26 from Adam and Daniel. Give me some suggestions, Adam and Daniel, for rounds which I can put in next week. Jill Ball says 42. Colin put 61 pence on his sister's birthday card. Well, the Royal Mail is looking for 65, but the post office says it's 61. We've got 46 from the Barons. We've got 47 from the Peterborough Hallams, 47 from the McKennas, 40 from Rowena. Birds saved her from disaster. 39 from Helen. Oh, well, we're not doing too badly. Not doing too badly at all. So if you want to throw some themes out for next week, I'm going to be on here for another minute, and then I'm going to have a bath and go to bed, because I have a church to walk to in the morning, fortunately. And another 100 questions bite the dust. Pretty terrible in Lincoln. Never mind. Try next week. Throw me out some suggestions. Colin McKenna suggests muscles. Money and currency. Right, I shall think of that. Thank you for a fun evening. We got 46 from John Olcott. Another good quiz. John Duncan sends me a blank email. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Welsh geography. Celebrity chefs. I hate celebrity chefs. Apart from Rick Stein. I quite like Rick Stein. But most of the rest of them are too brash. Got 33. Thank you. See you next week. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you all very much for taking part. I've enjoyed doing this, and it has been aircraft, ships, trees, World War One. Okay, cooking. Well, we've had food quite a lot. Okay, we'll give that some thought. Have a great evening and a good night's sleep. Bye-bye.